All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. We are going to get started in a couple minutes, but very, very nice. I'm sitting down with my colleague, the head of client services himself, Stephen Ongenaet. Stephen, how are you?
I'm all good. Thanks for having me, Ben. Glad to be back.
Yes, glad to be back with us. Another One Firm webinar series. Today, we are talking about a very popular topic, something that's close to my heart because it used to keep me up at night whenever I would be asked to write a personal business plan for myself as a silly young lawyer who didn't know anything from anything. But yeah, we're going to get into the essential elements of business planning for lawyers. Stephen, before we get off, I mean, what's your background with this? You're across it in many different ways, and of course, you've worked in law firms before, consulted with law firms. Yeah, give us a fun story about personal business plans or anything.
Well, I'm probably on the other side, right? I was never a lawyer, so I never had to create a business plan as a lawyer. But I've worked for many years in law firms advising lawyers on how to create their plans. And yeah, I think same feelings, close to my heart. It's one of the things I most love doing, because you really get into sort of that advisory coaching role, which I think is at once, fun to do, but also appreciated, I think, by the lawyers, and where you can really add value, I think, in the firm. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Totally, and completely unrelated to personal business plans, but we like to ground ourselves. You are currently in Italy. You are typically based in Mexico City. You are currently in Italy, coming off of a very nice vacation. What's going on in Italy? Anything catching your eye? We were just talking about the big race, of course, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I tried to actually switch off as much as I could. So I haven't been really closely watching the news. But what was really big was sort of a climate change story. There were huge floods in one of the northern provinces, and yeah, lots of damage, big crisis. But even then, like, the big news will always be the Giro d'Italia, the cycling race that is coming to an end. I think they're heading towards Rome, and yeah, I mean, Italy was great. It was nice to spend some time with the family here, and yeah, just good to disconnect for a while as well.
Totally. Italy is one of those beautiful places that I think when you're there, you just feel like life is richer, right? They definitely know how to live, I think.
There's more color. Yeah,
there's more color. Well, I don't know where everybody is from, but we're gonna wait maybe 2 more minutes and then we're gonna get started. But let us know where you're joining in from. Put it in the chat. We would love to hear what's the latest news from your part of the world. I'm sitting here in a very small beach town in Florida called Seaside, Florida. Fun fact, it is where The Truman Show, that movie with Jim Carrey, it's where it was filmed. So that's a real place, even though ironically it was a made up place in the movie, but it's a real place in real life. So that's our fun fact.
Quite meta.
Yes, very meta. Emma is with us per usual. Emma, welcome again to another One Firm webinar. Let us know where you're from, Emma, and yeah, what's going on in your part of the world.
Yeah, the voice from the great beyond is here yet again. I'm in British Columbia, so it is 7 a.m. for me, bright and early, but excited to be here. Nice and sunny today. You can see the mountains across the way, which is always lovely.
Yes, totally. I've gotten the chance to see some of Emma's vistas, and she certainly has a very beautiful vista of some beautiful mountain ranges. So lucky that it's a clear day for you, Emma. Again, let us know in the chat where you are from. We're going to give everybody just 1 more minute, and then we're going to jump into lawyer business plans. We're going to kick off with a little bit of an introduction into lawyer business plans, and we're going to get into the what, the why, and the mindset that is really important, because we have a little bit of a secret in terms of what we think makes lawyer business plans work. So hi, Caroline, coming to us from Texas. I tried to avoid the news here. I hear you, Caroline, certainly. Hello from Zambia, Bupe from Boston. Hi, Alex. How are you? Ariana from the Cayman Islands. Oof, very nice. I was actually just talking to somebody from the Cayman Islands a couple weeks ago. Maya from New York. Hi, Maya. Great to see you. So we're going to go ahead, I think, and get started. Yeah, we look like we're having people coming in, but let's go ahead and get started. Well, I'll give the formal kickoff. This is another one from webinar series. I am Ben Chiriboga, the Chief Growth Officer here at Nexl, and I am joined today by Stephen Ongenaet, which is our Head of Client Services. Stephen, how are you today? Let's go ahead and kick off. Everything good on your side of the world?
Feeling great. Let's get into it, man.
Okay, wonderful. So we are going to be talking about business plans, and I am going to go ahead and let's see what our topic is going to be for today. Okay, so we're going to try to go into a couple different topics today. First, we're going to start with the why. Why are personal business plans important? Always start with the why. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that Simon Sinek video that's super viral on YouTube, but start with why and then go to what. So then we're going to go to what. What does a modern lawyer business plan mean? Moving forward, we'll go to the how, of course. How should personal business plans align with law firm goals, and what sort of mindset finally is important? And I think this is going to be our secret that we're going to reveal at the end. And Steve and I were talking about what we believe is the difference between great business plans and those that just kind of sit in everybody's cabinet and then you just come back to the end. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So Stephen, you want to kick us off with why are personal business plans important in today's economy? You know, you've had a lot of experience with personal business plans, helping lawyers write them, helping lawyers achieve them, helping coaching. What's the big deal with personal business plans?
Well, I think it's quite straightforward. I mean, law firms in the current environment, they need to operate as a business, I think, to remain competitive. And if you want to operate as a business, you should plan accordingly, right? So business planning processes really have become a fundamental element, I think, in the way law firms operate. I think that there's still a long way to go. I think there's, as usual, a couple of obstacles, some of the peculiarities of the legal sector that make it less easy to design and execute on a business plan. But of course, it has everything to do with the increased competition as well. I think obviously, as the cliche goes, in the old days, people would get their matters from above and it would just fall on their desk. And obviously, that is no longer the case. And one way to make sure that a lawyer gets the matters and the clients that he's actually looking for is by creating some sense of intentionality, right? I think it's all about that effort to get into an intentional state of being. A business plan is a tool in the end, right? It's a tool that helps you get somewhere. Now it's obviously becoming a widely adopted business practice, I think, in the sector. There are still lawyers out there that don't have business plans, even in big firms. And we also see that a lot of the plans that we get to see as part of what we do at Nexl are not always sort of the quality that they deserve. So I think that's the reason why we're talking about this, trying to make sure that people really understand what should go into such a plan, what not, and perhaps some secret ingredients there. But basically what we see is what you mentioned, right? That people, they sort of have an annual routine or some kind of a ritual almost of trying to formulate certain ambitions, certain goals, and then often it just gets filed away. And that's obviously not what we think is an efficient business plan.
Yeah.
So I think that's more or less why we're talking about this, right? And why it's important.
Yes, totally. Okay, so my takeaways here is increased competition combined with the fact that basically the funnel of work doesn't flow like it used to, let's say, probably because of the increase in competition, kind of makes modern business plans and personal business plan important right now. At the same time, intentionality, and I think you sort of spoke about the secret sauce of why, and that's what we're going to talk about at the end, the mindset. Intentionality is starting to be very important. So we're going to, I think, walk through how do you actually bake in intentionality? How do you actually make it a usable document rather than just an aspirational document? Okay, so that was my takeaway from sort of the first. So why don't we go into, that's the why, why don't we go into the what? What does a modern lawyer business plan mean? And before you answer, I want to throw in a vignette here, which is what I was so lost, way, way, way long ago. I used to be a lawyer. And at the time, of course, I was just a naive lawyer sitting in there. And whenever I was asked to write modern business plans, I really started from this idea of aspiration. This is what I wanted to do. This is what I would deliver at the end. And really, I didn't really know what were the elements that were going to be put into a business plan to actually make it an actionable document. And I think that's really where I started to falter, and why these things ended up just being aspirational documents that I would just kind of put in the drawer and see if I actually hit them. So with that, how do we start to make this change from the way that lawyer business plans have been written, which is making them more aspirational documents, to maybe a modern business plan, and what needs to be in these kind of modern business plans?
Right. Well, I think we should, first of all, distinguish between what goes into a personal business plan for a lawyer and other planning processes that exist in law firms, right? I think there is sort of strategic planning going on at the leadership level of the firm, at the board, at the partner level, that really sets kind of the strategic direction for the firm, that offers guidance as to positioning and sort of the bigger picture of things. Then you have planning processes that take place in practice groups or in industry groups, sort of on the team level, your colleagues that kind of do the same thing. And that's where you would think about, okay, what are the services that we're trying to sell, right? What is it that we're going to promote and try to make more successful? And then also, who are we going to sell it into, right? So you think about your markets usually at the team level. So on the personal level, I think that's a bit different. I think a personal business plan, in my opinion, should not try to replicate all of the stuff that's going on at the top level, at the firm level, or at your team level. And that makes it a lighter thing, basically, to deal with. And I have seen personal business plans of lawyers that had like huge, 20 pages of competitive analyses. Right. And I don't think that's really necessary on the personal plan. I think in a personal business plan, the key thing is that whatever goes in there is actionable, right? The personal business plan is a tool to help you execute on the actions and the initiatives that you need to engage in, basically to get to those objectives that you're going to set for yourselves, right? And that takes us to an important point. When you told me about, I tried to jot down some of my ambitions, some of my aspirations, some of my objectives. That obviously points to the fact that objective setting is a key piece of planning. But in itself, objectives are not enough. I think we all know, that you have SMART objectives. You should define your objectives in a certain way to make them measurable, to make make sure that you're someone responsible, that they're time bound, and all of that. And that's excellent. But I think that an objective without sort of key results, without thinking about the outcomes of your initiatives, your actions, runs the risk of just staying there, an aspirational goal. So one of the things that we also do in Nexl, by the way, is trying to always accompany your objectives with key results, with outcomes. Because then all of a sudden your actions become measurable. If you are forced to sort of make your outcomes more concrete, it will make it easier to evaluate whether you're on track or not. And that's something that, sort of for starters, we often miss in a lot of the personal business plans that we come across. Those are some ideas I think that lawyers should take into account when doing their business planning.
Totally. Okay, so my two takeaways again here, and linking it up to the first point was, that one, everybody has objectives or even aspirational goals, that kind of get baked into the lawyer business plan. This is what I did, and this was really kind of good, but not really satisfactory. It really didn't make it an actionable document that I could work against, because all it did was have outcomes or objectives or aspirational goals that I was looking to hit. Your point here is that unless you have some key results, some measurable key results that tie back to that objective, this is how you have a aspirational piece of paper versus an actionable goal. So that's the first takeaway. Key results are necessary and typically are missing in lawyer business plans. What is going to be done at 1 month, 3 months, 9 months, 6 months, 12 months, and what's going to have been accomplished during that time as it leads back to the objective. That was the first thing. And then the second thing is that lawyer business plans do not need to, personal business plans do not need to tie back to the broader firm goals on a strategic level or a practice area level. Now we're going to talk about how they align, but it's an important distinction, right? Because you are not going to be, if we combine those 2 points, you're not going to be responsible for the entire strategic direction of the firm. And so that shouldn't be an objective within your practice business plans. So those are my 2 takeaways. Any clarification on that?
No, I think they might tie back to your strategic goals on firm level. But what I'm saying is you shouldn't necessarily replicate all of the same elements that you would see in a strategic plan on firm level. And that distinction is not always made, right? And that leads lawyers to spend sometimes a lot of time on stuff they really can't control. So as you rightfully say, there should be alignment. Obviously the strategic planning process on firm level, sort of the more technical plans in your team on practice group or industry group level, and your personal plans, they should align, right? They should connect to one another. The personal plan should be informed by sort of the strategic direction of the firm. That means that all lawyers in the firm should, understand what the strategy really is about. It's not always clear to them. So there's this process of socialization which needs to take place to make sure that everyone on a personal level can ensure that their actions, that their initiatives fall within the scope of that broader picture. And then they should also align with these team plans or practice group plans, in the sense that obviously if you're going to define your markets, if you're going to define your service offering, that your outreach, that your sort of networking activities, that your content production, whatever would come into your plan, aligns neatly with the scope as defined in that plan. And I think that if those are well understood, it just suffices to make reference to that, and then to really drill down to the more actionable stuff that you can be personally held accountable for, right? I think that's an important sort of recommendation to make sure that people don't get stuck in unnecessary complex thinking or planning processes.
Yes. Okay. So we've kind of gone already in, without me explicitly prompting it, into this idea of how should the personal business plan align with the law firm goals. Maybe just for sake of definitions, maybe we can define, let's say a firm-wide strategy and a practice group strategy. Could you just give, in your experience, what that means, and kind of then tie it in an explicit way? You just did, but maybe define those two types of goals, and maybe contrast it again for sake of being super clear. Contrast those with what the personal business plan should be really accomplishing for the lawyer.
Right, sure. So I think strategic planning on firm-wide level often involves sort of defining the values of the firm, the culture, sort of it's the stuff that used to go into mission statements, where you want to go as a firm in 2-3 years time. So I think that is strategic planning. If you then contrast that with what happens on practice group level, I think it's much more about becoming very clear about how you can differentiate your service offering in your key markets and towards your target audiences. So there it goes into really your subject matter expertise and how you, will convince your target audience of, the differentiating points that you can bring to the table. And then I think on the personal business planning side, I think we are talking about, okay, so what can I do? What needs to go into my sort of calendar of activities to make sure that we can contribute as an individual to these collective goals, whether it's within your team or, especially in larger firms and international firms that operate in different markets, how can we contribute with our individual actions to those broader concepts of, firm culture, market positioning, even, values and things like that.
Yes. Okay. So that's fantastic, and I think we're attaching I think we're showing how they're a little bit different at each level. Let's go to the last, and for everybody on the Emma, I just want to check in. I don't know if we have any questions, but please, if you do have questions, drop them in the chat on any of the points and pillars that we are going to go through. And we're going to end with the last, which is the mindset and what's so important about the mindset. And we're going to make it very explicit about the mindset that you have to bring in to a modern business plan, which we believe is a little bit different than what has been a traditional mindset, which is more aspirational. You're going to have to want to bring in a specific type of mindset, and Steven's going to talk about that. But after this, in about 5, maybe 6 minutes, we're going to get into how Nexl can help you power your personal business plans and make this very easy and make this very actionable. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, why don't we end with the mindset and what's most important about a modern lawyer business mindset, business plan mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where sort of we want to drive the discussion, right, within Nexl as well. I think that traditionally personal business plans have been perceived as like an administrative instrument, right? It would be something that details what needs to be done, and almost, it becomes like your boss. It will dictate what you need to do. And I think that's not the right mindset, because lawyers don't like to be bossed around to start with. You have that sense of, I'm losing autonomy, I'm losing that decision-making power that I, as an individual, want to cherish and safeguard, and I want to control what I'm doing. And I think that's actually where you need to go. I think that rather than seeing your business plan as a boss that dictates what you need to do, you should try to imagine your business plan rather as some kind of coach. Someone, you should put yourself in a position where you become your own coach, and you can advise and create time and space to reflect on where you're going and how you want to go about that. If we talk about mindset, obviously we're talking about a growth mindset, right? I think that's something that we in Nexl always put at the center of what we do. We want to grow. That can be, in many different dimensions, whether it's financially or personally, or in terms of the skills you have. But you need to have that growth mindset. I think that business planning for lawyers often fails because fundamentally they don't really believe it works. And I think that's a prerequisite for a business plan to become successful. You have to believe that you can control your own destiny, right? You have to believe that actually, if you stick to the plan, that you will get where you want to go. And that, in my opinion, is a growth mindset. It's a deliberate choice to do something differently. And I think, if we talk about sort of the secret sauce, I think what is a bit counterintuitive when you think about that approach is that it requires a lot of flexibility in a way. It requires you to make you tolerant towards failure. A plan is not necessarily designed to execute 100% or to achieve 100% success. If that is the case, and we often see that, right? Lawyers, when they go into business planning processes, when it's imposed on them, they will typically list up objectives or key results they know they will get to. But that's not the point, right? The point is that you try to test out certain things, that you take the liberty to reflect, to experiment, and to then also ingrain certain practices in your day-to-day life. And I think that becomes like a fundamental difference. Like, as long as you perceive your personal business plan as something that comes on top, something that's sort of outside the scope of what you feel is your responsibility as a professional, it's going to be very hard to do anything with it. But if it becomes part of how you see yourself, and if it becomes part of your routines, you know, I'm sure that people here in the room have heard about like Atomic Habits and these kind of business books that talk about how really, if you want to become effective, you need to look at your habits, you need to look at your routines. And for me, business planning is all about that. You know, it's about sort of certain cadences in your professional life, whether it's on a daily or on a weekly or on a quarterly or on an annual basis, things that become natural to do, things you're not afraid of, you know, things where you can fail and learn. You know, if we think about the idea of creating a culture that encourages sort of continuous professional development, well, that means iterations. That means trying stuff out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, learn from your failures, go again. You know, when we talk about growth, business development, that sense of overcoming failure, that sense of, you know, really persisting and not giving up is fundamental in my view. And that's a very different narrative than what lawyers are typically told, right? Where, you know, you have like the recipe and these are all the ingredients you need to put into your plan. No, it's much more, I think, that mindset, that generating these new routines and really materializing that, what is going to make a difference.
Yes. Okay. So I got a question from Caroline, which is she wants to see an example of some lawyer business plans. And we're going to try to do that within the context of this template, at the very least, a template and an idea of this new type of business plan. But let's go ahead and maybe just summarize before Stephen gets into. So we talked a little bit at the personal business plan and why they are important. We're just arguing that times have changed. It no longer is the case that due to increased competition, but also just the way that work moves throughout the firm, it's simply not the case that work just falls on a lawyer's lap any longer. This necessitates then the idea of a personal business plan. But we are making a very hard distinction here, which is lawyer business plans should not be aspirational. And most importantly, they should not be something that is a strict kind of guideline in terms of what a lawyer is going to do and what he's going to achieve or she is going to achieve. Rather, it should be something closer to what are we going to try, what habits am I going to create, what routines am I going to do to sort of try to move myself in a new direction. And this is the subtle, I think, idea here, that modern lawyer business plans should be about growth. They should be about ingraining new habits, new routines, new tasks that will push them into something. And of course, within that context, you want to align it back with the law firm goals and even the practice level goals. So that's where we're at. That's kind of the secret sauce that we want to share in terms of the insights, in terms of what we think modern lawyer business plans should really be thinking about. It's about creating a new habit, a new routine, a new action plan. And in that way, they become actionable and a coach for you. So with that, Stephen, what do you think? Fair summary of where we're at?
Very good summary as usual. Maybe let me add one more thing to this story. I think that personal business plans for lawyers, they should always be relationship focused, right? I've seen too many plans that list up certain aspirations, certain goals, or certain initiatives or activities that are not relationship based. Like, you know, they will write articles, or they will, attend conferences, or they will, do all of these things which are detached from human relationships. And at Nexl, we believe that human relationships really are at the core of any growth motion for lawyers, right? And then you can sort of narrow that down and split it up in terms of, do you go after your existing clients and you're going to deepen that relationship? Do you want to acquire new ones? Do you want to generate more referrals? What do you do about the retention of your existing client base? We have our famous revenue flywheel that Nexl fans will certainly have seen already. Essentially, it's about these relationships, right? And in order to track relationships and to make sure that there is a platform where you can collaborate around relationship building, you need a certain level of transparency around relationships. And that is obviously what we try to help lawyers with by automating certain workflows, by making sure that the data, the insights are easy to find and to apply as kind of the fuel of your personal business plan. Happy to quickly show how that looks like on Nexl, of course.
Okay, wonderful. So let's jump in. So just a reminder before Stephen shows this, these templates, if you are a Nexl user, these templates are available to you anytime for free. Simply go to nexl.cloud/templates and you can get one of our 20 or so templates. We are adding new templates all the time, even branded templates. So we are working with people from around the world, consultants, to create new templates for everybody. But these are available to you if you are a Nexl client. For those who are not, we are happy to show you how you can get started with the Nexl template. You can just go to the same page and click Get Started and jump on a call with us, and we will show you how you can get access to the actual template. So with that, Stephen, why don't you show us this modern lawyer business plan template?
Yeah. Happy to do so. I think in order to share, Ben, I think you should stop sharing yours. Yeah, yep. Perfect. So let me see if that works. Coming through, I hope. Can you give me confirmation, Ben, that you are getting this?
That I don't see it just yet. Maybe try it again. All right. I think you're good. Yep.
All right.
We got you.
Perfect. So this is an example of a personal business plan on Nexl, right? So it's a project here in our productivity section that our customers can create. And basically a personal business plan looks like this, at least if Nexl is used. So we first start off with sort of a general textual introduction as to what we would like to achieve. So this is what the business plan is going to be about. We have a section where people can sort of add notes. And then we also have a section for teams, right? I think it's something we haven't mentioned, but one of the tips around personal business planning is even if it's a personal plan, it doesn't mean you have to go alone at it, right? You should try to team up with business services people in your firm if you have that luxury, or with a colleague of yours, maybe a mentor, a senior partner that can help you to design and sort of keep track of your plan and help you basically get good at executing. The next element in an Nexl business plan is obviously your objectives. That's not going to change. We can have a ton of objectives in here that are easily updatable. As you can see, those objectives can be, a dollar figure for a pipeline. It can be a number of meetings. It can be rankings. It can be content creation. I always advise people to create as many objectives in terms of getting in front of people. That's what it comes down to. And then we have the opportunity to sort of start creating tasks to operationalize our business plan, right? So these are the practical steps you need to put in place to make sure that you are able to achieve your objectives. So this is kind of your overview page, your home page of your personal business plan. We have different tabs for tasks, for opportunities that result from your business plan. Very often the outcome you are looking for in a business plan. You can add additional background documents. And then we come we get to the meat around the bones in Nexl projects, which are our project lists. So for a business plan, for instance, here you could add a number of key clients that you want to keep track of. It becomes very easy to stay on top of the overall engagement you have within the firm vis-a-vis a certain organization. You can always click through and easily jump into the specifics around individual contacts within that organization, who knows information around all of the relationships that you have across the board with people from that organization. And then again, all of the opportunities and stuff that you can connect to an organization. You can also add in individual contact lists. So obviously, when we have a business plan, we will want to specify who we're chasing, who we're after, and how we want to approach these people. So here you can easily add people from your existing CRM overall database into your prospect list in your personal business plan, for instance. And from within here, you can then again, jump into the specifics of all of the people in your plan. So that's more or less how it works. You can add additional lists for prospects. You can even create generic lists or embed other documents or web pages that can help you to basically stay on top of your plan. And the idea is that you build these routines, as we mentioned, around all of the elements in this plan, that you frequently visit this space, that you can collaborate with your colleagues on your objectives, that you can look at certain trends in terms of engagement and all of that. So I hope that kind of clarifies it. To Ben's point, we have here on our website, and I hope that's coming through as well here, the various templates that we have available, including the personal business plan. If you're an Nexl customer, you can just click through and basically download the template to your Nexl instance. It will not have the data, of course, but it will be pre-configured, pre-built out with some sample objectives, with some guidance as to how you can use this plan. So a very practical, easy entry way to start doing your personal business planning. And I think I'll leave it at that. Ben, over to you.
Totally. So the template was there to give you a jumping off point. We built them with certain objectives and certain tasks that really try to solidify this idea of it's really there to coach you along the way, not see whether or not you hit your goals. And Nexl, as Stephen mentioned, should be there as your homepage, your personal coach, right? That you go each day, you update, you can kind of get feedback very quickly on how you are progressing on a day-to-day basis. And that's the big idea between a static document. Maybe these are very important words for everybody. The difference between a static document that you check at the end of the year versus a living template that is getting updated on a day-to-day basis. And I think this is the big idea, because let me bring this home. Whenever I was a young lawyer, all I basically did was created a document on January 1st, and then I looked at it on December 31st. It was a flat document. It had never changed. I never updated a single thing on that document. And what inevitably I found was that maybe I hit 2 of those 3 things that I've put down, but it wasn't a function of following the plan. It was simply a function of that I ended up somehow on that journey. What Nexl is trying to do is take that idea and move from static business plans to actionable day-to-day environments that really solidify this so that you can hit your goals in faster time, in quicker time. So hopefully that's how we're combining theory, this idea of change it from a static thing that you should hit to a daily objective, and combine it with the fact that Nexl, using technology that automatically updates itself, automatically brings in contact data, allows you to enrich on these and allows you to update your tasks. This is how we're moving from this static document to this living process, let's say. So I think that's the big kind of like takeaway. Stephen, anything on there before we end up closing out?
No, I think it's like you said, it should be a living and breathing thing, just like you. And if you revisit your plan 12 months down the line, the world has become a dramatically different place. And your plan is inevitably going to become, irrelevant if you don't, actually use it. If you ingrain it into your daily or your weekly routines, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally. Well, Emma, I think we answered all those questions. Thank you to Caroline for asking those questions, and thanks for everybody else who jumped on here. Again, if you would like access to that Nexl document as a template to jump off, we've built this in a way that you can start to see how it's more of the objectives that we created and the tasks. They're more about day-to-day objectives and the way to check in. If you'd like an example of that and you are a Nexl client, just go to nexl.cloud/templates. And if you'd like to take a look at how you can get access to the template, just reach out to us. Same button, same place, and we will be happy to let you know how you can get started with the templates using Nexl. All right, Stephen, any final words from well, you're not in Italy anymore. I know you're on the move in the continent, but any final aspirational goals or aspirational messages for everybody?
No, thank you all for joining, for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know it's not always easy to make time for this, and we will make sure that this recording gets to you as well as to the other people that have registered and might not have been able to see this live. But thanks all for joining, and I hope to catch you soon. Ben, thank you so much for inviting me. Always a pleasure.
Sure. Yep. All right, everybody. So we will be back very soon with another OneFirm webinar. If you missed this or want to watch all the other great OneFirm webinars that we have, we did Ryan Pickney on how to do market research. We've done on Bruce McEwen on how to thrive in a down market. Really good, actionable webinars. Check that out. You can go to nexl.cloud and get all of the past recordings. And thank you very much to Nexl's one and only head of client services, Stephen Ongenaet, live from the actual European content. And thank you, Emma, for putting this on. And we will be back very soon. Thanks. Take care, everybody.